My major is brain and behavioral psychology, but I have a certificate in acting, and I am playing Hester.
Hi, my name is Isaac Metcalf. I am also a senior here at Purdue. I am an acting major, and I will be playing Chili/Jabber.
Hi, I'm Matt Mahoney. I'm a senior. I am a double major in acting and speech, language, and hearing sciences, and I'll be playing the Doctor and Trouble.
Hello, my name is Kyle Redcross. I am a sophomore. My major is applied statistics with acting certificate, and I'll be playing Baby/Reverend D.
Hi, I'm Egypt Owens. I'm a junior in marketing and theater acting, and I'm understudying.
Hi, I'm Maya Radenovich. I'm a sophomore, also double majoring in speech, language, and hearing sciences and acting, and I will be playing Amiga Gringa in Beauty.
Hello, my name is Josie O'Donnell. I'm a master's student in mechanical engineering. I will be playing Walter and Bully.
What was your first impression of the script for In the Blood?
I thought it was a heavy, hard-hitting show that, I wasn't sure if everyone was going to be ready for it. I'm still not sure if people are going to be ready for it, but that's also something that's exciting about it. I knew it held a lot in it, and not just for, just one or two people. Every single person has their own story, and it just made us excited to delve into that story.
To give people context, whenever we audition for a show, we are not required, but highly recommended to read the play before we audition, just so that we know what we're working with. And I'm not sure about everybody else, but that was the first time I read the show, and it was just, it brought so much depth, and so it just had so much meaning and so much of an understanding of this modern world without doing much of anything. We've been able to delve a little deeper last semester whenever we did the virtual presentations to read some more of her plays and see how those connect with this one. And it's just amazing how she writes and how she incorporates not only these moments of extreme tension, but also these moments of just silence.
How does the story resonate with the context of the Black Lives Matter movement and the work for racial justice?
It's so relevant to today, and we talked a lot, and something our director Sunita said is how the setting is now. Suzan-Lori Parks doesn't give any other setting but now, and I think that's really fascinating because it proves the point that whether it was when the play first came out or now, these issues of racial injustice are still happening. So I think the fact that we get to put it on during a time where more people are speaking out about an issue that has been happening for so long is a great way to be able to use our voices and our privilege to be able to speak on these matters.
I think this play does a great job of showcasing how Black is not a monolith, and just showcasing different Black experiences and Black lives and giving validity to all of it. I think the play does a great job of making all of the experiences seem valid and relevant.
What are the differences between your Zoom rehearsals last semester and the in-person rehearsals this semester?
Everything. Everything.
Literally.
Very much.
Everything bit down to what we were studying. Last semester we studied the confession specifically, whereas this time we get to delve into the entire play as a whole. So it was more individualized. Last semester, I would say, getting to know your character, why, getting to know their story, why they're here, why they do what they do. And now we get to do that, but also interact with each other and understanding. I think it actually helped doing what we did because we got to understand our characters ourselves and then how we would go into these situations and be as natural and portray the character as authentically as we possibly can. So I think it really helped last semester, even though it was, completely different. We met online half the time that we meet this semester, but we still got to work as a group, but focus individually on our characters. And then we even got to, bring a little extra of ourselves into it with our own monologues and written ourselves. So it was really nice to be able to individually get to know our characters, get to know ourselves with our characters, and then bring it here where we can interact with each other as a whole.
To go on with that is that nearly everybody has two characters that we play instead of just the one. And since we focused on the confessions, all of us focused on the characters with those confessions last semester. But this semester, we get to play those new characters, those children. And it's so fun to have that like variance between being like this uber serious, or in some cases uber not so serious, adults who are in Hester's life, and then like varying that with the children that came out of whatever circumstance, whether it be the same circumstance, the same human, or a similar like vein of an experience. It's just really cool to like see the connections between those two characters, see how Hester, played by Maya, gets to experience us in two different extreme regards. Yeah, it's really cool.
I think another really like great thing about the Zoom rehearsal, which I didn't think I'd ever say that sentence, like great thing about Zoom rehearsal, was that because it's such a small cast, we had so much individual attention. Tasia was our director last semester, and she's still helping out this semester. But you know, we would have rehearsals where it was just me and her on the Zoom call, or her and Isaac on the Zoom call, her and Maya on the Zoom call. And because we were so secure with our characters with that individual training, we came into rehearsals being able to just show all that off, and it just meshed really well together. So opposed to like now Gwen that had a bigger cast, which was harder to do because it's more intimate and smaller. That individual help, I think, really benefited the play as a whole.
What is it like going from Zoom rehearsals to being in this space with a set already built?
We, like they said earlier, we already had a experience with our characters and who we had an idea of like how their stories were, how they should be, you know, build our characters pretty much. And coming into the world, it really makes our characters like complete. It really gives us it really makes our characters, evolve, I would say, to a point that is not just how we will behave, but how we behave in the world. How does the world affect our characters, and not just how we affect each other? And being in the world, it creates a type of relationship and bonding between the two, because you really get to be in it. You really get to be in it with one another, and you get to experience it together. So you experience it together, it really builds this bond and connection between the characters and between you and your scene partner. So it's really fun and beautiful. Glad we got to start right into it.
I would say that's really nice, being able to like go onto the stage at the beginning of the rehearsal period. I've never gotten to do that before. And I will say it was really cool because Sunita, she started us out with saying, just play. And we could, you know, we didn't have to, you know, imagine, oh, the bridge is probably going to be here. We have to move here. We had everything physical. We even have some props here that we're able to play around with. And she was like, just play. And I think that's like one of the most important things about acting, is just being able to experience new things that you know, probably didn't think at first, but because you're in the area now, you get to experience those things. So it was a really nice adjustment. It was just really nice. I appreciated that the stage was already done. But yeah, it was my first time being able to just jump onto the stage and just play around, see how the space makes you feel. And yeah, it was a eye-opening set for me.
And just even to have the ability to play on a set. I always feel like, especially here at Purdue, especially in comparison to my high school productions, is that it's very like well put together, and like if I were to jump on this set, I would like be doing this great disservice to it. But like this set, I just love it so much because it gives us such an ability to play on it. Like not only as the children literally playing on it, there's a hopscotch to play on it, but there's also the ability to like play with the levels and play with like being on on the stone versus on the floor, like just all of these different levels and different like things that we can do is just very cool.
Yeah, shout out to Katie, set designer.
I was gonna say the same thing, for real.
What challenges have you faced with rehearsing during a pandemic?
For me personally, obviously, you know, social distancing, obviously it's very much needed, but it's very different from what you necessarily expect from theater, obviously, and especially the stage itself is very intimate. So it's sometimes, especially when like everyone's on stage at once, it can make it very, very difficult to like manage like the blocking. So.
Yeah, and also with that, this play is so much connection building and intimacy in the play with Hester and the children or the adults around, but it has to take you back, and it really trains you to think outside the box on how to display such connection, such intimacy without actually having to touch. And I think, yes, it's struggles. It's a struggle sometimes, but you can always overcome it. And once you do overcome it, you feel so much better about your performance, and you feel so much more connected to the point that, yeah, I could have hugged you, but us doing this other motion together feels even more intimate than the actual touch itself. So it's really fun to play around with that as well.
What about Hester's story makes this play relevant today?
Whew. I mean, I feel like the question is what doesn't, make it relevant to today. I think her story in general, she's a single mother raising 5 kids. Just starting there is something that, we don't think about on a day-to-day basis, but it's so relevant to today. I know I was overwhelmed when they said, she had 5 kids. I can't even think about having one, but and then also homelessness is so prevalent, so real. And she's also an African-American mother, single mother with kids who is homeless. There's so many stereotypes, so many things that goes against her that is still happening today. We were talking about the Black Lives Movement, and Black Lives Matter movement, sorry. I think her story in a whole ties to everything that's going on to today. And it actually ties into things that we tend to ignore. And I think that's why I saw this as a show that was going to make people think by the time that they leave. Because it really tests how you look at society and how society, views homeless people, views women, views African American people, views children, even mentally disabled people, like the way that you look at them. There's so many layers of relativeness that goes on to today that I feel like we don't want to look at, but this play forces you to look at it and forces you to take it head on. And that's one of the many things that's going to leave you thinking well, why do we look at it like this? Or why do we react like this? And that's something that I'm really glad that we all get to be a part of, because, it's not an easy thing to do, to even be able to live in it, but to, spread that message that, hey, maybe we need to pay more attention to this, or maybe we need to, rethink how we are looking at situations. And yeah, Hester's story is one that we don't want to look at, but I think the show proves why we have to.
Without spoiling anything, it's funny that each adult character that comes into Hester's life shows us a horror of this country that we live in. Each adult character brings in an aspect of the country that we live in today, and how a woman like Hester has to endure the terrible things that come along with it. And yeah, I mean, Maya hit it right on the head. It's a story we don't want to face, but it's a story that's happening and that we should listen to. We even had a moment the other day where we had to stop because I was delivering a line that was kind of insulting to Hester, and Maya was like, whoa, wait, I just got into my Maya brain, I wasn't in my Hester brain yet. So it's heavy, it's hard to put ourselves in these shoes of people that, you know, at least for me playing one of the adult characters, I hope I don't act like Amiga Gringa in real life, and I don't think any of us act like our respective adult characters in real life. But we've had to do a lot of separating of like self and character because of how unfortunate some of these topics are.
How does race and socioeconomic status impact the characters' relationships?
I'd say specifically for a lot of different characters, they view a lot of the parents or, you know, absentee parents view themselves on a much higher pedestal than they view Hester. They very much look at her as almost less than nothing, to be honest, and just how they view her because of her situation, that she's a woman, that she's a black woman, that she's a black homeless woman. They very much make that as if it's her identity, when it's not. It's her situation that a lot of people find themselves in, and it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, and with that being said, like he said, they see her less than, and so they feel the right that they can stomp over her because she's the little people, and they feel like they're bigger than she is, and they're living their life correctly in the eyes of society almost, to the point that she's not, when she's doing everything she can to do good, and they're doing everything bad to look like they're doing good, in a sense. So it's pretty funny the dynamic of the two, and how socioeconomic and race, just because you might have higher up than someone else, we're all people at the end of the day, and we should see each other as such and not as things to identify as, but let's just identify as humans. And once again, you're human, I'm human, let's help one another, you know? So
It's heavily stated throughout the entire play, specifically by one character, but it's heavily implied by every single character that this is a society based off of capitalism. So everything in this play has to do with money. I think every single character in themselves, you know, has a special connection to money, and, you know, their status and where their money puts them. Yes, they all directly interact with Hester, and they see that, you know, their status is way higher than hers. But I also think that in themselves, they're like, oh, I'm not up there yet. I need to do what I need to do to get up there. Or, you know, maybe I can use Hester to get up there. Or maybe I need to get away from Hester to get up there. It's all about, you know, making more money, doing whatever you need to do to make more money. So money in general is just the root of the issue. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say all the issues, but it's like everyone has their own connection to money in this situation. And even Hester, you know, she has her moments where she knows this is how she's going to get her leg up. This is how she's going to get those higher ups, you know? And so even though I don't think that's the root of her, or I really don't think that's the root of anyone, but I think everyone has their own specific relationship to money and how they want to get up with the higher ups.
Yeah, and it's funny because like all these adult characters that are taking advantage of Hester like aren't really doing much better than her. At least, you know, like I think there's a really interesting relationship between Amiga and Hester because yes, we are both women, we're both poorer women, but that racial divide comes up a lot, and you know, without giving too much, like in terms of making money, Amiga does recognize that I'm a white woman, so I'm good. Even if we do the same job, I'm going to make more money. So that discrepancy there is brought up many times. It is something that is very relevant that needs to be paid attention to.
Yeah, I definitely think when all the adult characters come in and interact with Hester, like there's similarities with all of them in one way or another, but the focus for the character is how am I better than Hester? Like what is it that like I can get from her to get higher in my status? So it's really kind of focused like all these different perspectives coming from all the different adults and all essentially putting Hester down even more because of whatever that difference is.
And even with like going with characters that aren't even in the show. Like if you look at like Amiga Gringa talks about like men that take advantage of them, and then there's the Doctor that talks about the higher ups a lot. There's not only the Hester line, not only the division of our characters and Hester, but also the division of the people who are above them and the division between those characters. And it really gives a lot of context as to why they're doing the things that they do. And it also brings to light how much after going down all those rungs of the ladder from the top to the bottom, the top thinks of the bottom as like an expendable statistic they can use in whatever way they wish to get higher on that rung.
What has surprised you about your characters as you've developed them?
Hester's strength, I knew it was there, but the more we go through her story, the more we like unpack everything about what she's going through with each person, I am always, there's not been one rehearsal yet where I have not been shocked about what she's going through and how she's overcome it. I am just, especially, you know, having 5 kids, being through every single thing that she's been through to get those 5 kids, everything that she's gone through that she's going through right now, just to do what she can for her family, her resilience and her strength and her power is something that I didn't expect in the beginning. You know, I knew it was this hard-hitting play. She was getting dogged. Like, she is just getting hurt after hurt after hurt, but after a while you have to understand that she's getting hurt, but she's still going. And, you know, it takes a lot to do the things that she does and to, you know, interact the way that she does, to take what she has to take because of her money status, because of her status in society, because of her situations, because of where people have put her. It's just so, in a way, uplifting. I use that term loose because of, you know, most of her things that she goes through is not uplifting. It's really terrible. But even, it's like what they say, like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that's really what I'm feeling during this entire thing. And I feel her, you know, resilience, her power, the struggle that she's going through and what she's doing to keep herself going, not for her, but for her kids. And so that I wouldn't say it shocked me. It continues to surprise me. And it's a really good surprise.
For me personally, when I originally auditioned, I auditioned for a different character. So to be honest, I actually didn't read the play beforehand, but I read up on that specific character, and then I ended up getting a call back saying, do you want to do Reverend D? And then I just like, okay, he's a pastor, let me just, you know, audition for this. And then I got the part, and I read back, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I was scared. And I was concerned. And then once, you know, we finally started getting to the process, you know, last semester, really looking at what he says, even when he's speaking to his following, when he's by himself, when he's talking to Hester, everything's so calculated and twisted and sinister in a way that is kind of scary for me, but I'm just, you know, trying to do the best I can to, you know, portray how this character is. But
I think, like, jokes aside, that for me and all the other adult characters, like I say this all the time, we only see this story through one lens until we get to the confessions. So we are meant, as the audience, you're meant to feel for Hester, as you should. But what's going on in these other adult characters' lives, the trauma and the things that they've gone through that we don't really see as much throughout the show, took me by surprise, because we, at least with Tasia, I spent a lot of time, you know, building this backstory that wasn't given to me. It was something I had to come up with. And, you know, for me, it's like playing this woman who feels the need to sell her body because she doesn't have any other means of making money, and that's what she's been told she's worth. She's just worth selling herself on the street. Like, that's terrible. It's sad. I can't imagine, you know, feeling the need to be put into that position. So being able to, like, come up with our own backstories helps us create these ever-changing characters, so we just discover new things every rehearsal.
I also feel, for me, like we said last semester, we were so focused on our adult characters and things, to the point that being able to finally like play around with my child character as Jabber, seeing the dynamic he has with the other kids and his mother, and him being old enough to know, but still naive enough to not know the whole thing, you know. So then it just challenges me as an actor to realize, okay, how much to give and how much to take, you know, instead of me just going along with it or completely oblivious to it all. And going into for Chili, it was difficult because at first I was reading it, and I don't know why it took me a long time, but I was reading, I was like, he's the only one that's not the bad guy, you know. He's actually wanted to help her at first, but then he just got overwhelmed. But as you read and you learn more, you start to actually dive into the character himself. You start to realize that, you know, not everyone has good intentions, and sometimes it can be hard to spot those intentions, but you have to. A wise woman once told me that a man will tell you who they are, you just have to listen. And once I read and more, I started to listen and pick up on those signs. And seeing those signs gave me a whole new idea of who Chili really is, which I am compelled to really like put into my character development and my performance, and hopefully be able to show you all who he really is inside.
What do you most want an audience to get from your portrayal of your characters?
Oh, I think one way or another, every person that watches this show is going to find a character that they relate to in some way. So just keeping an eye out for that, and you know, I can't say that our characters will provide whatever you're going through comfort, because there's not a lot of comfort in this show, but we're not sugarcoating anything here. So I think, you know, being able to watch it and find something you relate to is a really powerful thing. And I love when shows are able to do that. And I think that this is a show that can do that for each individual audience member.
I think with this show is that it doesn't give you the ability to relate to a character and feel like calm about it. It gives you the ability to relate to a character, and specifically, at least for my case, being a white man, gives you the ability to unlearn, de-learn, to fully understand how we got in this situation and how we can escape from it. There's most definitely a lot of the Doctor being like, he is stuck, he is in this position, and he has no other choice but to do the things he does, because I don't want to spoil anything. But it brings a lot of context as to how, at least in my eyes, how a lot of people think in this modern American world. And it also brings context as to how that method of thinking can directly impact the people who aren't, what's the word for it? Like, who aren't like, privileged, there it is, who aren't privileged, I couldn't think of the word, who aren't privileged enough to have those options. So really giving that context really brings out a lot of an understanding as to, okay, this is an issue, what can we do to solve it?
I hope that people get the authenticity of everything and everyone. I just really hope that, you know, every issue that we touch on, every relationship that's had, every internal battle, maybe not all of those, but, you know, that may be more of a character thing. But I just hope that, you know, everything just feels real. And I hope that we're able to portray ourselves and our relationship with other people to the length that Suzan-Lori Parks wanted us to. You know, we talk a lot about how, like, these characters have a story. We cannot judge them. We can't judge them. So all we can do is, you know, portray them how they're meant to be. We owe them to be able to portray them like they're supposed to be, like they are. And so I just hope that, you know, that story comes out. And then also I hope that this brings to light a lot of issues that we as humans ignore. And that we just all realize that everyone's human at the end of the day. Every single person in this show has faults. Every single person in this show has a story. And I just hope that everyone, you know, we get to show those stories like they're meant to be told, and, you know, we do them justice. So that's my main goal with this.
I'd say a takeaway, specifically from my character. I mean, the character is not a good person. There aren't really any like things that he teaches you in terms of who he is. But in terms of the character himself, I think, at least for me, it taught me a lot more about how much of a society we live in, and how much so many people claim to be one way and then be the complete opposite. And I feel like I think about this country too, you know. We claim to care about freedom. We claim to be clear about equality, and then we do the opposite so much. The government, the people, so yeah.
Also, we hope you enjoy the show.
What do you hope audiences come away with after seeing In the Blood?
Honestly, I almost kind of hope that people feel this discomfort from it. We're portraying a lot of different scenes that like aren't something that you really, as mentioned, discuss. They're with the poverty and like the social status with race and all of that. Like, there's gonna be a lot of things that hopefully make people question, like, what is it that I'm doing, or what is it that's happening in society that maybe I'm not currently thinking of and I should.
Yeah, I don't think the play gives you the answers you want. I think you have to find them yourself, if you ever find them. And Maya said it best, you know, we want people to ask questions after this play.
I typically really hope that after watching it, you connect with an adult character. I want you to feel like, oh, I kind of see their ideas and things, and I want you to see that, and I want you to see, maybe not to the extent of who these characters are, but feel that you might have some part of that person in you, and realize how you treat other people once you leave, to the point that you might think you've been doing everything doing everything fine, taking care of yourself and things like that, but maybe taking care of yourself involved taking care of someone else, you know, and being able to realize that somebody always has it worse at the end of the day, and knowing how privileged you are, whether that's economically, racially, sexually, any of the lees. But knowing that, and knowing that there's always going to be someone who has it worse, and being able to be giving and being accepting and not so full of judgment on someone, and actually taking time to hear and understand who a person really is, besides what that person has. So.
I think with this show, I really want people to walk out and realize that the status quo is not enough. We need to actively be anti-racist rather than just not racist. One quote that I think of literally all of the time is from Dr. John Gates, the Vice Provost for Diversity and Inclusion at Purdue, is diversity is excellence expressing itself through the intersections of perspectives and lived experiences, yours and mine. In a perfect world, diversity is that definition. And this show, if anything, gives you the idea and the context that this is the diversity we should be rooting for. This is the diversity that we should want, and this is the diversity that we should be getting from point A to point B.
I think a big takeaway that needs to come from this play, like Maya had mentioned before, this is the now, and we need to acknowledge and have these conversations about how we treat people, and we need to continue to have dialogue, because if we keep ignoring these issues, then we're only hurting these people like Hester, you know. We continue to ignore them, and they continue to be hurt, and nothing will ever change if we don't talk about it.
I agree. I just hope that, people leave with questions, but more of a, question of themselves. Like, I really don't want to give anything away. Like, is it our fault as a society? What happens? Hopefully you get that at the end of the show. But, that was a big question that was asked. I remember in the show and tell, someone asked that question, and I never thought to look at it that way. But I was, is it really her fault, or is it our fault as a society because we turned a blind eye? And so I really just hope that people, open, it opens eyes, it opens doors, it opens the door to conversation and civil conversation, with open minds, open ideas, not closed off, no judgment. That's the biggest thing we also want to portray. No judgment. We don't judge. It's just, this is what it is. It's the truth, it's reality. Also, I think something that I really hope people get from this is that you can be intimate, you can be close without being close. The pandemic stops nothing, which I think I was having the hardest time with was, how is this gonna be the show that we want to make it without the intimacy, because this is one of the most intimate shows that I've ever done. And so I think this another just message is, the show must go on.
Another just quick thing, because we haven't mentioned it yet, but is a huge takeaway from this show is family. I know we've been talking a lot about our adult characters, but like the children and Hester and what a mother would do for their child is such a huge theme in this show, and I'm sure all moms and single parents out there will relate to it very deeply. And the kids have such a love for Hester as well, and it's interesting to see all the way from Jabber, who's 13, to Baby, who's 2, how their love is expressed to Hester and how she expresses it to each of them. But there's a huge theme of family in this show as well, and it's really beautiful to play, and it's really beautiful to see.
And I'm not a mom.
But
honestly, I'm gonna be honest here. I never felt like a mom. But I will say that's another thing. Okay, we're skipping questions. We're jumping questions. Because I'm just saying, every time we do this, and the family scenes, honestly, are my favorite. Because it's a time where I feel the most connected with everyone in a way that I've never felt connected before. And I was worried about it in the beginning. I don't know how to be a mom. I have my mom, and she's the best mom in the world. But, I was I just hope I can give that connection. And I really feel it. I don't know about everyone else, but I feel connected. I feel like we're a family. I definitely felt that before, in-person rehearsals. We talked about it. Even though we were on Zoom, we got very close. And I think it was helpful coming into this, even though there was a slight break. But, our scenes where we come together as a family, I remember, again, I'm not spoiling anything, but I remember we're all sitting together, and I looked at each and every person either as a kid that they were, or as someone that I truly loved, to a point where I would do anything for you. And I credit Sunita for, the character building and being able to really get into that moment. But I think we as a cast have bonded in a way that I'm comfortable, and I feel like I can be 100% vulnerable with them. And so I hope that vulnerability and that connection, that sense of family, that is a huge theme for this show, comes off to the audience, and that they feel included in that, because it's a feeling that I've never experienced before, but I'm so glad that it gets deeper every time we get to do it. So yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you.